Welcome to The System Works, the lifestyle channel that shows you who you are, what you truly want, and how to get it. The System Works. Own it. Welcome to another episode of The System Works. I'm your host, Ernest Phillips, and today we're going to talk about what is your business goal. And there's two big ones. There's impact or income. Okay, now I'm going to start off right out the gate. Either one is fine. Don't make anyone tell you or let anyone tell you that you have to do one or the other. I got into this business because I wanted impact, and I knew that. And then I started going along, and guess what? I was not making very much income, but I was making a tremendous amount of impact. And it got frustrating because I felt like I should be able to do both. And so I sat down with one of my business mentors, and he asked me this question: what is the number one goal of a business? And I started doing this whole answer of this and that and impacting people and changing lives. And he said, no, the number one goal is to make money. I said, oh, okay, all right. And then he goes, all right, what's the second goal of a business? And I said, oh, okay, well, then that means it's the impact and the customer service and I'm doing all this. And he said, no, the second goal is to make more money. And I went, huh. And then he said, what's the third goal? And I said, you're going to say something about money. He said, yep, it's making money, make more money, and then making more money. And I said, yeah, but that's just boring. And what if that's not my goal? And he said, it's not your goal, and that's why you haven't made money. And that stung. And that sat with me for a very, very long time. Now, fast forward a few years later, one of my other business mentors sat me down and he said, point blank, you're never going to be a business owner. And that was startling. I'm like, but I am a business owner. He said, no, you have a business. You are not a business owner. And then he followed with, because a business owner requires you to do things you don't want to do. And he said, and you've never been a person that is going to do things you just don't want to do. And I'm smiling because he's very much correct. I don't believe in the concept of obligations and have-tos. I barely believe in responsibilities, okay? And that's relatively new in my life. I believe in choice and freedom of choice. Those are the things that I'm into. So he was correct at the time. Now, fast forward again. There came a time when I had to ask myself, what is my true business goal? And it is impact. And then I had to figure out a strategy to how to leverage impact into making money. And then the real question that I had to ask myself is, how much money do I really need to make to feel comfortable, to pay my bills, and to live the life that I want to be able to live? Turns out it's not very much money. It really isn't. I have a great time, and I really don't need to make very much money, which means I now have more freedom for the impact. So, Tug tip, you can only have one number one. So if you're one of these individuals out there and your goal is income, make sure that is your goal. Make sure that is your number one. And then do it. Now, if you're not making the kind of impact that you want, you have to let that go. Because your number one goal is not the impact. Now, if you're one of these individuals that has been told you can't run a business or you can't be good in business or you can't do your job if your goal is impact because the business has to make money, I'm going to tell you right now, they may not be correct. Matter of fact, I'm going to say this. If your goal is impact, choose that. Then you have to find a business or a job or a career that allows you to put that first. And there's a lot of them. I don't want someone running my not-for-profit whose number one goal is income. I want them to have impact. I want them to listen to people who have goals of revenue and the income so that business can stay intact, so that not-for-profit can stay intact and continue to serve people. But I want the people in charge, I want them to have impact. So here's another tug tip for you. Commitment requires giving up something important. This is hard because if you are committed to impact, focus on that. If you are committed to income, focus on that. Be committed, knowing you are going to give up other things. Commitment to your number one requires you to give up other things. And a lot of times those things are important. But that's the goal. That's the power of commitment, though. So here's your action step. Whether it's impact or income, make your choice, make your decision, then commit to it. What's the Wi-Fi? What's in it for you by doing this? First of all, you don't have to go back and forth to decide what it is that you're really trying to do. Second, when you see the results of what your choices are bringing you, they are going to be in alignment with what your number one goal is. And then it's going to be easier for you to see the positive gains from what your goal is instead of looking at what you're losing and what you're missing out on. So there's a lot of parallels in business and relationships. There's a lot of benefits to commitment. And the first one starts with you in your comfort level in doing what you're doing, staying focused, and then reaping as many of the rewards that you possibly can out of it. So if that's income, make the money. If that's impact, make it happen. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again. We hope you enjoyed this episode of The System Works. Have fun with the action steps. Enjoy the Wi-Fis. Click like, click subscribe, and comment. The good and the bad, we like them all. We look forward to seeing you next time. The System Works. Own it.